Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, February 27th, 2025. This meeting will be broadcast to Channel 22 as well as live streamed and recorded to the MRSC YouTube channel. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:31. First item on our agenda is the Superintendent Scholar Award for Academic Excellence.
All right, well, I would first like to invite Miss Lucy Bates up to the podium for her prepared remarks. No. No.
He's kidding.
So each year we award, or I award, one Superintendent Scholars Award for academic excellence. And the requirements for this award is the student has to be at the top of their class. They have to be somebody who really is demonstrating leadership in the school and commitment to the community. And Miss Lucy Bates fits those characteristics. And it's nice. I think I first met Lucy in first grade long ago. So I wanted to say that I have some remarks that her counselor provided me, so let me just share them and embarrass Lucy at the same time. Lucy's one of the best students that this counselor said they've ever had the privilege to work with. Lucy holds the #1 spot in her class and is projected to be the valedictorian of the class of 2025. She's well-rounded, hardworking, responsible, incredibly gifted, and truly a wonderful human being. There are students that will forever leave an imprint on your heart, and Lucy is one of them. She's well respected by both staff and peers alike, a scholar, artist, athlete, and leader. Lucy wears many hats and has many skills and talents. Last spring, she was the recipient of the Harvard Book Award and was the only student chosen by the mathematics department for recognition for academic excellence. Lucy is an AP scholar with honor, a member of all of our honor societies, the National Honor Society, National Art Honor Society, National Chinese Honor Society. Lucy was the captain of the varsity soccer team, has held a spot on the team for the past 4 years. She's also a varsity lacrosse player and will be leading the team this spring as one of their captains. Lucy's been named the lacrosse unsung hero for the past 2 years. She's currently serving as a class officer and will play a large role in coordinating senior activities. This year, Lucy was voted by her peers to be part of the Hope Squad and a chapter for our school's chapter, which is a national school-based suicide prevention and awareness program. Her classmates identify Lucy as someone who's trusting and empathetic. Lucy has a very full plate outside of the classroom. She maintains employment year-round. Her ability to balance academics, athletics, and employment is remarkable. This past summer, Lucy was a representative for the Hobie Leadership Program. While Lucy takes advantage of many school programs, she's also sought out independent experiences. She applied and was accepted into the Cape Cod Climate Ambassador Program during her sophomore year. Worked with a committee of students across the Cape to engage in conversations about climate. She found an internship in a med spa over the summer where she could have some exposure into the medical settings. She independently tutors young students in Mandarin on her own time. When there's space in her schedule, she is coordinated with her AP calculus teacher to assist the Calculus 1 class. She looks to help others wherever she can. Her career interests lie in medicine, and we know that one day she wants to be called Dr. Bates. Her future's bright, and she will make any place better.
Wow. There's Joy. Thank you. Are you all set? Okay. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Good luck with everything.
Yeah. The next item on our agenda is the MRHS Student Representative Report. Is Jason here?
Hi there.
Oh, that's a hard show to beat. Dang, that's a good award. Good job, Lucy, if she's still here. Okay, so last time I was here, it was the end of January, and we were just wrapping up midterms. Super exciting. And that was also wrapping up, of course, the second quarter, which I believe I talked about prior. I'm kind of happy it's over, personally. But then we roll right into things at the end of January. A few things happened. We had the Monomoy High School mock trial team win over the Sturgis East mock trial team recently, just at the end of January. That's really impressive, of course. Honestly, I sometimes forget that we even have a mock trial team, no offense to them, but I'm really happy that we have one. It's not a dig at them at all, because that is such a difficult thing to really do, and law is such a complex thing. It's amazing that we see possible future lawyers or judges, etc. I think it's a really great thing that we have here, and I'm really proud of them on that. Then also, at the end of January, we had student Emery Hines and Wellington Holmes successfully auditioned for the Massachusetts All-State Music Festival. That's amazingly impressive, and they'll join forces with other high school musicians across the state towards the end of March for a final concert at the Boston Symphony Hall. That's an extremely impressive accolade. Both of them are very talented students. I've seen them in the many concerts I've attended, of course, the infamous alumni concert I always talk about. I did see that back in January. Hopefully you did too. But also the upcoming spring musical that is happening. It is Mamma Mia this year. Hopefully you'll also attend that. I saw Beauty and the Beast last year. It was absolutely fantastic. They really put on a full-on show, and these students are really talented. They are insanely talented. It's almost scary how good they are at this stuff. The singing, the dancing, the music, the just the acting. It's you really get immersed right there in the auditorium. Then we move on to, I don't think I did mention prior, which was the robotics team. They hosted the VEX V5 High Stakes Showdown right down the cafeteria, I believe, on February 1st. I don't really know what exactly happened there, winnings-wise, but I believe we did pretty good. I think we did. We must have done great. We got a really good robotics team, and I saw some videos of it's crazy showdown. You got these robots. They can't really damage each other too badly, but they can kind of fight a little bit. They can get they get in there. And then kind of with February, you really start scholarship season for the seniors especially. It's been a mess between the Cape Cod Association, Cape Cod Foundation, Monomoy Dollars to Scholars, of course, and then everything else that's available on Naviance. I'm in the mess right now. It's crazy. It's not bad mess, but it's just oh my God, you got to read all these things and fill it out by this date, and it's just, it's in that time of year. We're in that time of year now. And then we go into, on February 6th, some students participated in the Cape Cod Youth Climate Action Summit, hosted by Mass Audubon. They met Senator Julian Sear, who we did have back in November, I want to say, in our own auditorium for a debate between possible candidates for Senate. Probably late October then, for senators. It was really great debate back then. Really cool they got to meet him yet again if they didn't get to see him during that debate. And they joined interactive environmental stations and ended the day with a student action plan development session. So really, really important. Obviously, climate change, climate action, really, really important. Yeah, it's really great, especially down here on the Cape, to see how many people are putting an effort towards that, because we're surrounded by ocean, if you didn't notice, and as that rises, it's not very good for us, especially with the kind of sandy soil around here and all that. It won't end well if we don't take care of that, so let's get on that. And then Monomoy, as a school, was recently honored by the AVA Digital Awards for its video sharing the benefits of computer science classes for our students. Obviously, the district probably know this then. You collaborated with Christopher Seifert of Mooncoaster Films on it. I think you got that award on the 14th, so Valentine's Day, really good gift. I will just say that for computer science classes, I am in one right now, AP Computer Science. It's a truly fantastic course, and I think that STEM courses in general are great. When we talk about robotics, we talk about computer science, really building up future engineers and future computer scientists who will literally code this world for us. So really fantastic to see that. And then eventually after, Valentine's Day, everyone was like, oh, love, yay. February break. February break, that's the real exciting stuff here, let's be honest. That was fantastic, and over that, there was the Galapagos trip. I didn't go on it. It sounded really cool. I saw some photos. Check out the MRHS Global Instagram if you want to see how cool it looked. There was obviously going to those islands and seeing many of the iconic species and animals that kind of helped Darwin eventually develop his theories of evolution. So I think that it was really great to go see that, with your own eyes and really understand history and biology coming to life. So I'm really happy they went on that. I went on the DC trip back in November, and I can just attest to how important these trips are, no matter where they are, because you really get a sense of something that you just cannot get through screens or through books. You get to live through that. And then recently on Monday, the 24th, Monomoy Writes had its February edition, so new articles, new poems, new stories, etc. Really fantastic. And then the MRHS Jazz Band took home silver at the Massachusetts Association for Jazz Education Cape Cod/Coastal Jazz Festival on the 25th. So many of the great musicians I do know, they participated in that. It was apparently a fantastic show. They did a great job, and I'm really proud of them for that. And I hope that we see more music being fostered here. I always talk about it, and it's because I love it. So yeah, you get my bias. And now I'll talk about sports because I usually skip over them a little bit. So the girls, I believe that's field hockey. I just copy and pasted the emoji, so I don't really know. Could be hockey. Could be hockey actually. That would make more sense. But they beat Norwood 3-4 to advance to the MIA D2 round of 16. If that makes sense, then I got it right. So and then boys hockey beat Keefe Tech 8-1 at the MIAA D4 statewide tournament preliminary. So those sound impressive. And the boys will play Dover Sherborne in a round of 32 on Thursday at 8 p.m. At the River School. That sounds cool. I don't really like Dover Sherborne because I used to live in that area, so I hope they beat them. I do. And then we're kind of launching ourselves into the future a bit. We just heard about Hope Squad a little bit with Miss Bates, and here to talk to you about it again because I'm a part of it. I'm very proud to be a part of it, and we are planning to have a very, very small group head to the middle school very soon on the 5th, Wednesday, to do a little bit of anti-bullying / really an empathy lesson for them. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about this. I'm assuming I can. I'm in the weeds of it, so I don't really know. But we're planning that lesson out. We're going to be going there next week. I'm really excited to do so. I know that like all schools, there's obviously always going to be issues with bullying and with kids saying some not so nice things. Thankfully, I think once you get to the high school, people mature. But they're kids, they're tweens, they're teens. They're growing up, and we just want to go there and really approach it. Not just as some adults or teachers talking down on them, but as students, as kids, being like, "Yo, this stuff is not only is this not cool, but there's better ways to handle this. This pain, this pressure." Especially, you always think of empathy to the bullied, but also, understanding those who bully and trying to make sure that we can compact that down and really put it into a nice, simple, easy, and understandable lesson for middle schoolers, because I used to be one, and I don't listen to anything back then. So hopefully they'll listen to this. We're going to try. But I'm very excited for that. Things hopefully will go according to plan, and that will happen. And then coming up day after, on March 6th, there's going to be March Madness here in the high school. That almost happens every year. It's just a good competition. Students, they build teams, they play basketball. Hopefully they win. And then I did mention Mamma Mia, but that's happening March 11th through the 15th. And I believe on Saturday, the 15th, they're having 2 shows, one at 2 and one at 7, the regular show. So it's really super accessible. Absolutely should go. Find time in your calendar. Mark it down now. And then this is really in the future, but on April 4th, we're going to have the Harlem Wizards back. The class of 2027 now will be hosting that. I remember doing that because I was class president back then. That was a crazy, it's a crazy event, but it's really fun. Obviously, kids love it. Kids absolutely adore it. And it really does, it does great things for, of course, the class, whoever's running it. And also, I think it's an amazing community event. Given that I experienced it, I will just, I'm sure you all have too, but I would just atone to how important it is that it keeps happening, and I'm really happy to hear that it's coming back. So that's it. That's all. Got it out quick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next thing we're going to do is the approval of minutes. We'll start with the minutes for January 23rd, 2025. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes or edits? You have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, unanimous for the 5. The next set of minutes are for the fiscal year 26 budget public hearing. Any questions or edits on that? Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, thank you. We're into public comment. Do we have anybody here for public comment tonight? No? Okay. Moving on to reports and discussions, the MRHS Empty Bowls Full Hearts event.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fiona Moore. I'm a senior here.
I'm Ashley Anderson. I'm also a senior here.
We're here to present to you Empty Bowls, Full Hearts. We ran this fundraiser last year as well as it was run before COVID, and then obviously when COVID hit, everything shut down. But our main goal for this event is to raise money and gather donations for families with food insecurities and homeless people with food insecurity. And we're partnering with the Family Table Collaborative to make this happen. A little bit about this is, so a lot of students from Monomoy's grades 8 and 11, they go to the Family Table Collaborative every week, and they work in with the soup kitchen. They do pantry stuff. They do all of that, and part of our portrait of a graduate, which you can see up there, is this allows them to grow creatively, critically. They learn to be leaders, and they learn to be engaged citizens. Although this was run with Ashley and I last year as an entrepreneurial internship, we're really looking forward to getting the younger grades into this so they learn how to become leaders and how to work together and collaborate, and so that this can move on in the future.
So it's going to be happening Thursday, March 20th of 2025, and we're going to do the 2 seatings again. We're going to do 5 and 6 p.m., and it's going to be the same way it was last year, I believe. You can do online, you can call the school, or you can just come in the day of to the table and just pay for a ticket there. And then this is going to be the pricing for this year. Is it the same as last year? I do believe so.
It's almost the same.
Yeah, and that's going to be our pricings. It includes the bowls and whatnot. And then a little bit more background on the Family Table Collaborative. It was created back in March of 2020 to help with families and seniors that were experiencing food insecurities. And the problem of food insecurity was not it was an issue back in 2020, but it's still an issue today as well. And with the Family Table Collaborative, they've produced over 185,000 meals for these families and seniors with insecurities, and they've helped our community in several different ways. And so with that, from last year, we had several different donations for food related. We had Pond Avignon, the Pelham Bakery, Dunkin', Captain Parker's Pub, BJ's, and a bunch of other local businesses helped along with donations. And then we were able to amount to over $5,000 in contribution to the Family Table Collaborative last year with this.
And finally, with this collaborative, Family Table Collaborative, we just love to be all a part of one united thing. So we're really excited to have even more than 55 students volunteer, and I think we're going to get that because last year we had a large show in junior seniors, and I think that a lot more 8th graders and 9th graders are excited for this event because they attended it last year. So we're just really excited to get the community together and enjoy this night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone have any questions? Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
Yeah, you did a great job. We'll see you there. Yeah.
Perfect. See you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Next, we're going to do the 2026 student trip proposal to Australia, New Zealand.
Mary and I will be chaperoning. No, I'm not chaperoning. Sorry. Me. We
Is everybody packed up? Ready to go?
No. Arm wrestle. Suitcases in the car.
Right.
We're just getting that in there now.
Good evening. If you don't know me, my name is Dustin Burns. I'm a science teacher here at the high school. I'm also the science department instructional leader. We can start with making sure everyone has this. We'll be referencing the itinerary here. We just got back from the Galapagos Islands last week, which was an incredible success. The students had an amazing time. The parents were overjoyed, and lots of great pictures out there. It was a really good educational experience for the students. In our department, one of our goals is to really expand the opportunities for students to connect what they're learning in the classroom to what's happening in the real world. And that includes trips like these, but also more field trips that are more affordable, free field trips, guest speakers. We really want to try to connect the science curriculum to what's happening in the real world. So this is part of that. This would be our fourth trip, if approved, for the science department. In previous years, we went to Costa Rica and the Galapagos Islands, obviously from last week. And then, if approved next year, we would do Australia. We considered Australia, New Zealand, but that really put us above what we're comfortable with our price point. We want these trips to be as affordable as possible and accessible for students. So we can kind of walk through the itinerary, and I can explain why I chose this trip as one that's very highly aligned with our science curriculum standards. So the first couple of days, travel. Takes a long time to get there. We arrive in Sydney. One of the first things we do, and I'll just kind of give you the highlights, visit a museum. A lot of the activities going forward here are focused on climate change, how it affects their ecosystems, biodiversity, land management. It's really the conservation focus of this trip. Day 5, I decided to switch surfing, which might not be perfectly aligned with the curriculum, and we're going to do a walk through the national park to kind of explore the flora and fauna there. Sustainability centers, there's an opportunity for them to build sensors. I'm really interested in see how this works, that they can build and then take out and collect data for microclimate, which seems very interesting. And then if you look through the days, each day is kind of focused on some element of conservation or land management or ecosystem conservation. Toward the end, we are paired up with a marine biologist who will take us around the Great Barrier Reef and kind of explain some of the challenges that reefs around the world are experiencing with global warming. The ocean temperatures are rising. It's really stressing out the reefs and destroying them in some cases. In Costa Rica last year, we were surprised to see that the reef was completely bleached and basically destroyed, and that had happened within a couple of years for them. So it's a really big problem around the world, and it's something Australia is really interested in solving that problem and conserving the reef. So that's kind of a survey of the types of activities that we would be engaged in if approved for this trip. So I'll kind of stop there and see if you have any questions about the itinerary. Sure.
I do. So this is a long trip.
It is.
So it is. And so it looks like it's going to be 2 weeks. I think I might have missed this somewhere. So is this over one of the breaks and then you're adding on an extra week?
Correct. Well, not exactly correct.
Oh, okay.
We would be leaving, we would be using the April vacation of 2026, and we've been approved to use 2 additional days so that we have enough time to travel.
Okay, good.
And we would not be doing the days 12 through 15. That's the part that would take us to New Zealand. And so that
You're not doing that.
cannot do that,
okay.
and we can talk about
Okay.
the reason for that.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I may have missed, how many students will be?
So when you do these trips, you never really know. You're kind of going into it blindly.
Right.
Historically, about 20 students is what we've had on these
And that was on the
science-focused
last one
trips.
as well? the Galapagos?
Yes, sir, about 19. So what we hope to do is reach 30. 30 brings the cost down significantly for the group. So it's a larger group and it's a little more difficult to manage, but it's definitely worth it for the families to make it more affordable if you get to that 30-person mark. It goes up by about $400 if we don't reach 30. So in terms of pricing, Ms. Police and I spoke and we kind of discussed like, okay, what is the price limit that would make this equitable, that would make it possible for families, and we kind of came up with a number around $6,500, which is what our most expensive trips in the past have been, and that's kind of where that number came from. We're not really comfortable getting above that, if at all possible. And my strategy is each year to offer one of these trips in kind of a way that's tiered by price. So Costa Rica is a way more affordable trip. It's around in the 3,000 range. Galapagos is in the 5,000 range, and then this one would be the most expensive. And then get these out into, or advertise these way sooner than I have in the past to give families more time to chip away at it, and it would make it more accessible in that way too. So you might see me again in the fall for 2027.
That's actually what I was going to ask you about. Could this be an extra year out, only because you'll give people 2 years to pay that down?
I completely agree, and as I've learned more about these trips,
Yeah.
I'm realizing that what it takes to do all the work ahead of time and plan it has to happen much, much sooner, so that maybe for the next one,
Yeah.
we would have up to 2 years to do that. So absolutely correct there.
Anybody else?
All right.
We're good. Thank you
Sounds
very
fun.
much. Yes.
Thank you.
Sounds exciting.
All right.
Field
Appreciate
plan.
it.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Madam Chair? Oh, sorry. So are you going to need a vote at the next
At the
meeting?
next meeting.
At the next meeting, so
Yeah.
before you start working? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
We'll move on to the 2025-2026 sped budget presentation.
Good evening, Melissa McGuire, Director of Student Services. All right, I'm going to present an overview of the 25-26 budget tonight for special education. As you know, it's very complex in general, but we'll talk a little bit about the requirements, our enrollment, our current enrollment for October 1 and as well as current out-of-district, circuit breaker, mitigating costs, our specialized programs, staffing, transportation, extended year services, contracted services, additional expenses, grants, and then implications. So there's a lot, but you know me, I'm going to get right through it. All right, so what was that? All righty then. Oh, okay. So just, really quickly, requirement by laws, we're required to provide every student with a disability with a free, appropriate public education within the least restrictive environment from ages 3 to 22. So we're working with students beyond, the 12th grade, up to 22 years of age. So in terms of enrollment, we look at our October 1st enrollment, and then, of course, as we go through the year, those numbers change drastically depending on students' eligibility. So on October 1st, we had 330 students who were eligible for special education services. Now, as long as I've been here, we've always been under the state rates for special education eligibility, and we continue to remain under those state rates. What that means and why they look at that is due to over-identification. So the state gets really concerned with students who are over-identified. So that's why those percentages I watch carefully, because we don't want to over-identify. We want to really use our tiered system of support to support all of our students, and so that if they're not requiring specialized instruction or related services, we don't want to identify them as a student that requires special education services. So that's just important to keep in mind. Based on our February numbers, there were 322 students who were receiving special education services. And you're going to see kind of where that comes from in a minute. So from October to February, there are 8 students less, okay? And this is how this works. So based on the current enrollment, the top numbers, our total students receiving services and our preschool students, what you can't account for ever and why the number changes is you see the numbers in red. That first line in red are currently the number of students who are being evaluated. There are 54 students being evaluated to determine eligibility for special education. In addition to that, by the end of the year, we have an additional 38 evaluations that need to be conducted to determine whether a student continues to be eligible for special education. From September to current, we've had 8 students who were found no longer eligible for special education. And if we go back up here, the 322 to the 330, that's our 8 students. So but it fluctuates so much, as you can see with those red numbers. Now those 54 students that are being evaluated, they aren't necessarily all going to qualify for special education services. So those numbers will change until the end of the school year. So again, a little complex, to manage throughout the year. It's not always a given number. So with our budget, we have what's called circuit breaker reimbursement. And the circuit breaker reimbursement covers $1 for every dollar over the foundation amount, which this past year was a little over $52,000. So we basically break down all the services a student's receiving, including those students who are out of district, who pretty much all hit the foundation amount. But all the students within the district who are receiving whether one-to-one, speech and language, occupational therapy, all of those services add up to a dollar amount. So our reimbursement is whatever's above that $52,000, that's when we get reimbursement, 75% of those costs above that. That becomes really complex too. So the other part of the reimbursement under circuit breaker is we are reimbursed for the previous year. Okay, so the previous year claim is what we were paid for this year. The other thing that came new into circuit breaker, which was great in 2021, was transportation. We'd never been reimbursed for transportation. So that now is part of the reimbursement, and that's a separate calculation for that reimbursement. The first couple years, they paid us a 75%, which has been pretty steady with circuit breaker for several years now. But as you can see, it's kind of dipped a little bit. We're not sure what the percentage of reimbursement for transportation will be this year, but we're hoping it'll go back up. The other part of circuit breaker, which is interesting, is there's another component to it. It's called extraordinary relief, okay, or reserve relief. So if in a year school district takes on more costs that they had anticipated in their budget, and it's typically from out of district where we have a student who might need additional supports and services that we had to add into the budget. We can, and this is the process we're going through right now, we can submit for extraordinary relief, and that's additional dollars. We've met extraordinary relief a couple of times. We met it last year. And we will also apply for it again this year. So that's another source of reimbursement through circuit breaker. It is complex, but I did want to share, that we do have a source of revenue for reimbursement. So this is just kind of breaks down over the past several years what our reimbursement was. So the 25, so our reimbursement on 25 was from our claims for last year. We did meet extraordinary relief. That's why it is a little bit higher than the previous years. And I think in 22 we received extraordinary relief as well. So that's the breakdown. So when we talk about out of district, again, very complex, but looking at the numbers over the years, this year we've had several students who have struggled significantly and we've needed to provide an out-of-district placement for. So as you can see, our numbers increased a little bit this year from last year. Going into next year, we have 2 students who are graduating, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to that graduation ceremony at the Collaborative. If anyone is interested in going, I have an RSVP, but we do have a student graduating, so that's exciting. So, and again, as you know, these are complex numbers in terms of whether students continue to need these services or they can come home, and we work really hard, I shouldn't say come home, come back to the district, but we work really hard to support students to be able to come back to their home school. So we have several students that we're very hopeful for that have done a wonderful job and may be ready to come back to their home schools next year. So we're excited about that. So the complexity of out of district is, very complex, but usually it's disabilities that are very unique, okay? Medical, behavioral, and when I say behavioral, dangerous behaviors that we certainly can't support here. Student who might be deaf, who might be blind. So they're very unique disabilities that we don't have the capacity of programming to support their needs. We also have what's called the move-in law. So we have students who have moved from another state to our state or from within the state to our district. And the move-in law is really, it's a date. So by April 1st, okay, if you move in before April 1st to our district and you're in an out-of-district placement, the previous district must pay for the remainder of that year and the following year. Okay, now that holds for us too. So if one of our students moved to another district who is in an out-of-district placement, they do that before April 1st, we would also be responsible for the remainder of the year and the following year. If they move in after April 1st, the previous district is only responsible for the remainder of that year. We then pick it up in the budget that following year. The reason they do that is to allow districts to plan and be thoughtful and make sure that it gets into a budget. So it works well, unless you're on the other end and you're paying for the year and a half, but it does work. Collaborative placements are unique in that anytime a student who is in a collaborative moves into our district, we are responsible the day they move in for that tuition. The move-in law does not apply for collaborative placements. So that's where you see some of that increase in out-of-district placements too. Somebody might have moved in who was already in a collaborative. So day one, we pick that up. Some other issues that, we have seen, especially the past 2 years, the Operational Services Division is who approves private school tuitions, not collaboratives. Collaborative tuitions are approved by the board of those collaboratives. But for any private school, the Operational Service Division looks at their operating budget and they approve the tuition that they set forth. What we've seen the past couple of years is a couple of significant increases that they're requesting, and they have to get it approved. We saw one out-of-district placement's about a little over, I think, $40,000 a year increase in the tuition. Now, OSD hasn't approved it yet, but in my 30 years that I've been doing this, not once have I seen OSD not approve an increase. And I used to go to the bidders conferences all the time, and we stopped going because they never say no. So it's a little frustrating at times, but also understanding that the students that are in those programs have incredibly unique needs. And so honoring that those services are important for that student, but also being mindful that these increases are pretty substantial. I think the other one was about a $9,000 annual tuition increase that we were looking at. So making sure we can get that into the budget. But there's some of the reasons why you're seeing that increase in our out of district. One of the other pieces, and we've had a couple of these situations, if a student is in the care of the Department of Children and Family Services, and they place a child in a residential facility because they've been removed from their home or their needs are unique, we are required to then pay for the educational portion, the day portion. And the complexity of this is twofold. One is if they place them in a program that just has one tuition, in other words, it's a full 24-hour, 12-month program, we have to split the cost 50%. So that's a much higher but, because residentials are up between $300,000 and $500,000 for tuition. If they move to a program where there is a separate tuition, a residential tuition and a day tuition, we then pay the day tuition. So as you can see, there are lots of complexities to managing the out-of-district costs and making sure that, we're meeting the needs of our students. So for 2026, the budget, the out-of-district tuitions, now, this is where circuit breaker comes in. We apply circuit breaker reimbursements to offset some of these costs, but our 2026 budget is $1,385,000. Again, that's less the circuit breaker reimbursement that will be applied to that. In terms of the expenditure, obviously at the end of each year, we have a balance, and we want to make sure we always have a balance because that is helping us to make sure we can offset any unforeseen needs that a student might have. But at the end of 2025, we'll have a little over $606,000 in our circuit breaker reserve. So this is the most exciting thing I talk about because I think it's really important. And I've said years and years that, our special education costs are so visible and oftentimes our students are invisible, and really looking at what does this look like. So I did this exercise, I believe, last year, but what I want to show is what our cost savings are, how we mitigate costs, because I think it's really important for everyone to understand. So what I do is I take the lowest tuition, okay, the lowest day tuition to use as this calculation. So the lowest tuition right now for our district, not including a collaborative, but they're getting up there too, is $73,000 for a day placement, okay? Then what I do is I take the students in our intensive programs who would meet the criteria to be in these programs, okay? So across elementary, middle, and high, as you can see, we have a significant number of students, who are in our programs. And then what I take is the instructional assistants needed to support those students. We have many students who require one-to-one due to their safety, predominantly actually due to their safety. So then what I do is multiply obviously the number of students times the tuition and times the instructional assistant cost. And I use the lowest instructional assistant cost. So if you were to send them out of district, right, and again, those are the lowest costs. This is not taking into consideration some of our students who might require more expensive program. It's the lowest tuition. So for elementary, for middle, for high, for postgraduate students, which many districts have to send their children out for postgraduate because they don't have 18 to 22 programs. We're very fortunate we do. So students stay with us till they're 22. So looking at those costs, okay, in red, a little over $2 million for our elementary students, a little over $1 million for our middle, almost $2 million for our high, and not quite $1 million for our post-grads. Now, using the district costs, I did the opposite. I took the highest salary of our students, of our teachers, and the highest salary of our instructional assistant to calculate an in-district cost. So even with the highest salary for a teacher and highest salary for an instructional assistant, as you can see down below what that difference is. I'm going to flip it because it has a total. So if we added up those red lines, it was over $6 million to support those students if they were in out of district. With our program, with the highest teacher salary, and remember not all those teachers are at the highest salary, but I use that just to illustrate how we are mitigating costs. The district cost is a little over $2.5 million. So the difference is almost $4 million that we save to support our students in our own district. And I just think that's important to illustrate. All right, so, and because of that, we have amazing programs. In the last 9 years that I've been here, we have just built some beautiful programs in the district that have been able to support students to stay here. And of course, it all starts within our general education and where our students are included, our co-teaching, our modified classes, and then to our very specialized programs, our SEAL program, our IEL, our SURF, our Shell, our TIE. There's a theme here. Just saying, I love, listen, born and raised down here, you gotta have the beach theme. Our sand, our shore, and our sail, we have a program at every school. And that is what is really supporting our students and mitigating the costs. So when we look at all of our programs across our schools, right now the numbers for FY '25 and the projected numbers, right now we have currently 65 students, which is about 21% of our students who are supported in special education that are in our specialized programs. And that has grown substantially and has been amazing to watch the growth of those students in our programs. Please come visit, some of the programs. Well, you'll see, because I have a video at the end. So with that, of course, it takes staff to operate all these programs. One of the things that also has helped us mitigate costs significantly is the mental health coordinator and the board certified behavior analyst that we brought on. So again, but not all of our teachers, all of our instructional assistants, all of our support staff, but we're constantly looking to build our capacity to continue to support more complex disabilities in the district, and this has helped substantially. So this is just a breakdown of our staffing in special education. I'm not going to run through every number, but we are well-staffed and we're really supporting our programs and our students. So another cost that is kind of tough sometimes, but it is our transportation. Transportation is very costly, and we have 2 cost centers for transportation. So I will talk about, this is just the general budget right now, and then I'll talk about our grants in a little bit. But right now, in terms of transportation for next year, we're projecting about $651,000. And there's a lot of considerations that come into play with the cost for transportation, students and out of district, because we're required to transport students to their out of district placements. The number of specialized routes in district, meaning the number of students that have specialized transportation on their IEP, their individual education program, that require them to have a special bus, sometimes a monitor, to go from home to school. The number of cost share routes mean that if we have a few students from Monomoy that are going to the collaborative and DY has a few kids that are going, we share that cost. So we work very closely with our other districts to see where a kid's going so that we can cost share. Our extended school year program, of course, we must transport all of our students to their extended school year program. Personnel and gas. Those are all things that are considered when we're looking at what is the cost going to be for our transportation. Our extended school year service, that is, for all intents and purposes, special education summer school, right? So students must qualify for that. And so right now we're in the process of identifying all the students who will require this service at the end of the year. So, and this is the time to do it because what you look at is, first of all, what's the severity of the disability? So all of the specialized programs, we know those students are going to need those services in the summer in order not to regress. The other part for our academic students, we look at, are they going to substantially regress in September compared to their peers? That regression looks at, usually, it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for kids to recoup skills. Right, to bring back those skills that they left at the end of the year, bring them back, apply them. So what we look at is what does it typically take to recoup skills? So we're looking at, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. If it takes longer than that, then you really need to have that summer program to maintain those skills. So when you come back, you're not losing as much as we would want to see. So that's how we determine extended school year services. And it changes each year, depending on the needs. So we budgeted about $110,000 for this coming school year. Contracted services in our line item, that's really services that are unique, like the teacher of visually impaired, orientation and mobility, translators, interpreters, which is definitely a big part of what we're supporting our families with, is our translators and interpreters, and then our tutors. So though we must tutor students who are either home or hospitalized, For if they're longer than 14 days or cumulative if it's up to 14 days, we must provide tutors for students. And this is not just special ed. This is for any student who is not in school receiving their education. So all of that comes under our contracted services, and we're budgeting about $51,000 for next year. And then some additional expenses. We have legal fees, and as you can see, although we consistently budget a certain amount every year, we don't ever come near to that. My concern always, and I say this about Michael, I worry about if we did need some legal. We need to have a placeholder for our legal counsel should we need it, but we do a pretty good job in not spending a lot in legal fees. Testing supplies, very costly. Can't even tell, like, it's every time you turn around, they're coming up with a new addition to a test, and you only have 2 years to be able to use the current test before you must use the updated version. So that's very costly. So we are budgeting about $16,750 for next year based on our current testing that we've needed. The instructional materials, equipment, and technology, for any supplies. That goes for all of the supplies across the schools, for all the special education teachers and related service providers. We're only budgeting about $13,000 for that. And then professional development is heavier next year. Michael, where's Michael go? I'm wondering if did you include the co-teaching in that? Yes. Okay. Okay. So that included the co-teaching that's in the...
Is Michael in the books?
I know, it's like, what are...
What's that?
Where's
We
Michael?
just hear a voice.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, whoa. It's magic.
Which makes complete sense, obviously, because it's a special education teacher and a general education teacher, and so that makes perfect sense. Okay, then we have our grant funds. We have a couple of entitlement funds. Our first is our federal IDEA, which is called 240, and we are entitled every year. If you notice from last year to this year, it actually dipped just a little bit, but it still serves us very well. And then they separate out the early childhood special education grant, and that's it's a decent fee for our preschool. And then for 2 years in a row, which was really nice, we used to get what was called Grant 274. It was a professional development grant specifically for special education. We get it every year. It stopped. It stopped years and years ago until the state decided to change the entire format of the IEP. And so with that, they realized they needed to provide some money to help with professional development to transition to the new program. So last year, they gave us a little over $17,000, and we just were approved for this year for $10,000. And that's really to make sure that all of the IEPs are updated to where they need to be based on the new state standards for IEPs. So what do we do with our grants? So transportation, we put a good chunk of change towards transportation. So this year we put $165,000 towards transportation. Next year we're going to project $100,000 out of the grant. Now the medical and therapeutic or the contracted services and the instructional materials and technology, the reason it's not projected is because it'll be contingent on how much we get in our grant. So that usually comes out in July or August, and then what happens is, is I take that money and I look at all of, these categories and try to make a determination of what's needed. For some of the therapeutic services, we have some one-off contracts or consultants that I need for special situations, so we always try to use the grant funds to have those specialized contractors support our students. So in terms of just consideration and our needs, obviously maintaining the mental health coordinator, that was previously in a grant. It's been an amazing position. She is everywhere, and really working hard, especially in conjunction with our multi-tiered system of support, and really taking that mental health tiered system of support and merging it with the work that we're doing in the district. Our BCBA, again, that was previously supported through the grant, and that's how we maintained it, is we put that towards transportation, when I said that was cost neutral for this year, if you remember, so we were able to support that position. That will be in the budget for next year. And then in terms of just changes, as you know, we do have a 0.5 cut at the preschool and a 1.5 cut at Harwich Elementary in the preschool. And with that, okay. You're getting the video.
Where's my video?
No, you're getting the video.
Waiting this whole time. Very nice.
Lovely.
Nice.
All right, any questions?
Melissa, just going back to breakdown of current enrollment. Totally current and evaluation, how long does it take for the evaluation period?
45 days.
45.
30 days to complete the assessments, and then you must meet within 45 days once those evaluations are completed.
Okay, and then when you have the students found not eligible to date, those 8, what was the situation there?
Success. They've met their goals. They're able to successfully be included in the general education program without supports.
Okay,
Those are huge celebrations.
great.
Huge. And so of those, 54 and then the 38 after that, there will be other students who will have met their success and will not be found eligible.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Go, Scott.
I just want to make a quick comment. I know that being a director of student services sometimes is a very thankless job. And I know when I first was hired here, and I remember coming down to take my first stroll through the schools and that make up Monomoy, coming from the suburbs where it was so easy for either parents to unilaterally place their child someplace or a school district to place a child. In the suburbs, you can go north, south, east, and west, and there's places that kids can be placed. And what you found is that, I think more often than not, many of the children that Melissa's talking about aren't in the schools, but the reality is they are in our communities. And it was refreshing to come here and see that the faces of the children that make up Monomoy really reflect the faces of the children that are in our community. And I really greatly appreciate that over Melissa's tenure here, that number of kids has increased. Like we're seeing more and more programs develop to keep more and more kids here with us, and she deserves a lot of credit and thanks for that.
Our educators deserve, but thank you. Thank you.
Just one other quick question.
Yeah.
First of all, it was wonderful seeing a Monomoy graduate teaching in these summer pop-up. I was very happy to see that.
Can I just tell you that in our summer program, we hire many seniors to work in our summer program as instructional assistants.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, good. I just know she's back on, I guess, on the staff, so I love that. With the translator-interpreter services requiring students, blah, 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 I'm assuming that also means like with IEP meetings, all those meetings, is that?
Yes, anytime there's a communication, all IEP meetings, all the documents have to be translated into the home language.
Okay, so if there's an IEP meeting, for example, is that, because I know interpreters are very, very expensive, and so do they come in person or virtual?
So, well, interestingly, we're very excited on the new technology we have, but in the past we've used what's called Pacific interpreters, or it's an online. So what happens is you dial in to this company and then you let them know what language you need, and then an interpreter comes on. So it's usually via phone. Once in a while we might have an interpreter that comes in, but they're so difficult to find. So usually, but this year, and I don't know, Robin, if you've talked about the new devices, which are fantastic, allow for direct interaction. It's like an A-frame with, two tablets on either side. And so I can sit and really have a conversation, and as I'm talking and I push the mic, it's translating it on the other side automatically. And you can do text, you can do voice. So excited about that. Instead of I've been like at the collaborative and it's dropped, like the call has dropped, and that's really frustrating. And so this is really exciting.
Good, thank you for that.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the fiscal year 26 budget update.
Good evening, School Committee. Mike McMillan, School Business Manager. No presentation tonight, just wanted to give you an update on where we are with the budget since we last met. So we presented the budget to Chatham Select Board, Chatham Finance Committee, the Harwich Select Board, and this evening we also presented to the Harwich Finance Committee. So I wasn't actually present for the Harwich Select Board meeting, but there's been, generally some feedback, some questions. We've provided more information. We're continuing to do so. No direct response yet, but the next step in the process is for us to come back to you on March 13th to get you to vote the final draft of the budget, and ahead of that we'll be having a meeting of the Finance Subcommittee to review where we are and to look at some options or changes we might make to the budget before the final draft.
Awesome. Any questions? Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to subcommittee representative and liaison reports, the middle school restoration project update.
I'll start, but I'll pass the mic pretty quickly. We did have a meeting last night, and the biggest part of the meeting was the update on the most recent testing at the middle school. But I feel like Dr. Carpenter has a better pulse on exactly the outcomes, so I don't want to mess anything up,
So we continue to do the indoor air quality testing in the middle school. So we did the next fourth, so we were essentially doing, the first round was every essentially fourth classroom and office area, and now we've shifted to the next fourth. In the first round of testing, the library had a unusually high result, and then in consultation with the librarian, I think she was quickly able to determine what the source of the high result was. Apparently where they were testing for the indoor air quality happened to be about 1.5 feet away from a stack of books that had previously gotten wet that they were waiting to dispose of. And when we looked at the books, there was clear mold on the books. So the books have been disposed of. We had them retest the library on this second go-round, and the library is well within the normal readings. In fact, in the second go-round through the next quarter of the building, all of the readings were well within within normal for the rest of our schools and town buildings, and completely within the readings or the ranges of what mold spores are per cubic meter outside in the building and the environment around the school. The only two results this time that came back elevated were from 2 locker rooms. So we have 2 locker rooms off of the Slim Jim that for a decade have been locked and closed. And since the Slim Jim was a little high the first time around, I just wanted to see if these mothballed locker rooms might be contributing to it. So the locker rooms, unsurprisingly, having been shut for 10 years, had elevated readings. But again, nobody's using the spaces, and the custodians will go in and just make sure that there's water in the traps. Because you can imagine after 10 years, the traps in many of the drains have dried out, but to make sure that there's water in the traps, and I think at some point, we as a school district might need to think about what do we do with that space, because there's a big chunk of space off the Slim Jim that just hasn't been used other than storage. So we have, it's used as building storage in the locker rooms. But good news on the indoor air quality. Also, what was shared at the meeting, there was a big chunk of time that was spent on looking at core samples through the drywall, because I know that people's concern is, has mold kind of permeated into the walls, and so they sampled 45 spaces around the school, essentially going through every classroom's interior wall to see what was on the other side and pulling out the plug, and then using a little fiber optic camera to go in and see, and all of the cores came back clean. But there's clearly, once you get to the plywood on the that's on the outer part of the building, there are areas of plywood that clearly need to get replaced. So a large part of the conversation that Meredith and I and Michael and Robin and the rest of the members of the building committee were hearing last night was just sort of how much plywood replacement should the project carry to make sure that they're having a good conservative number for plywood replacement. But I would say thematically we could say that we know that we've long determined that it's the lack of flashing at the windowsills that's creating the issues. So a lot of the plywood beneath windows would need to get replaced. So there was a lot of conversations about that last night, and then also the conversations about siding material to use, because the most expensive siding that one could use, or one of the most expensive siding that one could use, is to put back cedar shake on the building, which doesn't last as long. I mean, if you go look at other buildings in Chatham, the annex and police station that's not a wood product on the outside of them. That's like a hardy concrete board. There's a new building, or a building that's been re-sided at the trap dock.
You got it.
I got it this time.
Not the duck dock.
Yeah, so the trap dock has been re-sided with something that looks from 10 feet away like it's a cedar shingle that's been painted, painted gray, but it's actually a product that is supposed to last 50 years, has like a 50-year plus warranty on it. So at the moment they're looking at different siding materials, and will ultimately, on the back side of the Slim Jim that has no windows, create some mock-ups on what potential sidings could be used so that people can see it and provide some feedback. But we do anticipate in the upcoming week or so, we'll have a round number or finalized number on what the siding window cost will be. And so we're on a hard push to have that number ready for town warrants. And then we are going to be on a big push as a building committee to sort of educate the public on the need and what the costs are, and how just sort of share the facts. If we don't do it now, construction costs are only going one direction. So there's going to be a lot of public education that needs to happen between us getting that number and town meeting. Is that good?
That was perfect.
It's great.
Thank you.
All right.
The Finance Subcommittee update.
So Betty, we did not have a meeting, so I'm wondering if we push this to our next meeting?
Sure.
Because we do have a finance sub next week.
And, yeah.
We do.
March 5th.
March 5th.
And maybe March 10th. Is there two of them? Yeah.
Yep.
So it'll be on the next agenda.
We'll have lots to talk about.
I don't know how it landed on us. I don't remember seeing it, but anyway, okay.
Who's in charge of this agenda?
I don't think it was on the agenda.
It wasn't.
But anyway, the agenda Betty and I saw, it wasn't on there.
Superintendent's report, recognition, donations, grants, and other acknowledgement.
All right, this week is Public Schools Week, a time to honor the incredible work our public schools and educators, staff, parents, and school board members that are dedicated to supporting student success in our schools. This year's theme is community engagement, highlights how schools and their communities work together to advance student achievement and success. And then for the superintendent's editorial on equity audits. So let me start with a question. Did everybody have a wonderful Valentine's Day?
I'm going to assume you did not, so that's good.
That's a trick question, right?
I had a pretty bad Valentine's Day. So
You didn't slip on the deck this time.
I did not slip on the deck or anything, but before I get into my discussion of Valentine's Day, let me preface this with, these remarks are the superintendent's opinion, my own, and do not necessarily reflect that of our school committee. So Valentine's Day morning started with, as I was driving into work, a frantic email that said, "We need to talk," from the consultant that we have been working with MAEC, our equity group. And I'll come back to the talk that we had afterwards. Valentine's Day evening, I was blessed with an email from Craig Traynor, the Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights of the United States Department of Education, who sent an email that reads, and I'll read 3 sentences from it. The first sentence, a middle sentence, and the last sentence, because I agree with them. It says, "Dear colleague, discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin is illegal and morally irreprehensible." Scroll down several pages. "All students are entitled to a school environment free from discrimination. The department is committed to ensuring those principles are a reality." Scroll down several pages. "Thank you in advance for your commitment to providing our nation's students with an educational environment that is free of race, color, or national origin discrimination. Sincerely, Craig Traynor." In between all of that, there are other things that sort of skew a little further afield from, I think, the sentiment of those 3 sentences. Like, in recent years, American educational institutions have discriminated against students on the basis of race, including white students. Proponents of discriminatory practices have attempted to justify them, particularly during the last 4 years, under the banner of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. Programs discriminate in insidious ways. DEI programs, for example, frequently preference certain racial groups. They deny students the ability to participate fully in the life of the school. The department will no longer tolerate the racial discrimination that has become widespread in the nation's educational institutions. The law is clear: treating basic students differently is illegal. The department intends to take appropriate measures to assess compliance beginning no later than 14 days from today's date, which would be tomorrow. Let's see, failure to comply with federal civil rights law may face potential loss of federal funding. So that's kind of where we found ourselves between last time when I was inviting the school committee to participate in an equity audit and the frantic email at the beginning of my Valentine's Day, which essentially said that the funding for any sort of equity work has been terminated, and all sort of operations that way have been terminated. But you can imagine that there are some who push back. So today, just before I came to our meeting, I pushed back as part of my testimony for a suit to push back and just say, hey, we agree with those 3 sentences, and so this is what I sent back in. Monomoy Regional School District was seeking to mitigate achievement outcome discrepancies seen in our school district's data, discrepancies that are unfortunately found in most school districts across this country. Our boys are, on average, not academically succeeding as well as our girls. Our children from low-income households, on average, underperform academically when compared to their peers. Our graduates from households where parents are not college educated are far less likely to go on to college themselves. Our students with special needs, students of color, and our students from homes where English is not a primary language are on average less likely than their peers to report feeling a sense of belonging in our school community, and on average lag behind their peers academically, all of which mirrors research studies that show a strong sense of belonging in school is directly linked to higher academic outcomes. Monomoy Regional School District's goal is to create a school system in which students, staff, and families feel like they belong, where all are successful, where all or where demographics are not an indicator of success. To this end, Monomoy Regional School Committee has an elected body representing their constituents of the towns of Chatham and Harwich, Massachusetts, voted upon a goal to engage in and support an equity audit within our school district. Our equity audit was our school's direct action to unpackage, understand, and address the root causes of the aforementioned discrepancies in academic performance and outcomes by some demographic groups. Now, I'll scroll down several pages. Our locally determined and locally directed work of our locally elected school committee was abruptly halted when a top-down presidential edict caused the United States Department of Education to terminate funding of our school committee's initiative, work meant to ensure all children in our school district were receiving a high-quality education and were realizing success. So that's just sort of a snippet of the pushback, but we're in this like weird place on the school committee has a goal for an equity audit, and at least some in the Department of Education at the moment say that such goal is illegal. So there we are. I'll end my editorial there. This is not open for discussion.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we need to take a vote on the 2025 NAFME Eastern Division Honors Ensemble student trip. And that was to send 2 students to Hartford, is that correct? I don't think it's in there.
This was
It's
the
Emory.
Rosemary. Yeah.
It's.
I think it's Hartford. It was
It is
like Newton last year, but
Yeah, I think this one is Hartford, it was the 2 students that she had named. So, and Jason
need to
named as
take a
well. So do I have a motion? Oh, sorry, Meredith.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2025 NAFME Eastern Division Honors Ensemble student trip.
Second?
Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? Okay. Pass. And we have the second reading for the policy files.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we accept, that we approve the files ADDA, JB, AC, and ACAB-SH as written in the documents attached.
Second.
Anyone have any questions on the policies? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Everyone approve? We've had the presentation of the warrants. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh.
Buy that up.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we adjourn at 7:54.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Good evening.
No, I'm sorry.